Welcome back to Desert Smoke Reviews. This is Justin.
Wyatt?
Tonight we're going to take a look at another Gurkha. Like Wyatt and myself we've said many times, we'll always risk it on a Gurkha because when they're good, they're great. But when they're bad, they're horrible. But tonight it's the Gurkha Assassin in Toro. I don't know a whole lot about this cigar. I don't know if it's one of their older ones or one of the newer ones. I know they've got a lot of their newer blends like the Seduction and the Cellar Reserve. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's coming in with a nice medium brown wrapper. Very few fine veins. Seams are done well, except I've got one little stretch mark on the foot. Cap's done well. It's nice. I have a nice firm pack up here by the cap. It's a little squishy down here by the foot. Might be a word. I hope it's not a bad draw, but overall, it looks pretty decent. Off the wrapper, for me the aroma is just a nice earth and barnyard. Very typical aromas I tend to pick up. And maybe a hint of sweet tobacco and earth off the foot. Wyatt?
Yeah, off the foot, it's like it changes every time I take a sniff. First time I took it in, I thought, well, you know, that's definitely like baker's chocolate or baker's cocoa or something. But then, you know, Justin saying that, yeah, kind of that damp earth, and then off the aroma, yeah, I mean, just kind of hay, maybe a little bit of earth. But yeah, I mean, like Justin said, we're willing to take a risk on a Gurkha, so let's take that risk.
All right, let's get your cut up.
Really earthy flavors in the first puff for me. A little bit of hay. Actually, this is probably the most predominant flavor. It sort of tastes on that first puff like that Gurkha Shaggy Foot that we had a few reviews back. No pepper or anything. None of that baker's chocolate. Mostly just earth and a little bit of hay in that first puff.
I agree, it is. That vintage Shaggy is very nice, but the very first few puffs, because without the wrapper, tasted a little bit, not harsh, but kind of unrefined, and I'm definitely picking that up on this cigar. I hope that tends to go away. It's not the best flavor. It's, yeah, like an unrefined hay or grass, and maybe a bit of earth on the finish. No pepper, no sweetness, no chocolate, no nothing, just
Otherwise, pretty smooth smoke though.
yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's not harsh. It's just a little bit unrefined on the flavor profile. But yeah, relatively smooth smoke. Not to say it's harsh or like a gaggy or anything. It's just a little bit unrefined. About a medium body, probably, and about the same strength. It's just, you know, the first few puffs. Let's get into the first third and see how it goes. Welcome back. We're about 10 minutes into this Gurkha Assassin, and so far, I actually had a couple of construction issues. It just, like right before we turned on the camera, I heard a little pop, and I've got a couple of hairline cracks, and part of that wrapper's trying to peel away, but I think it'll burn through without a problem, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Other than that, the burn's been okay, not needing a touch-up. Ash is holding on very well. It's a nice pale white ash, very nice. Flavors for me, a little bit changed, or a little bit different. There's been a bit of a change. In the finish, I'm starting to pick up like a semi-sweet dark chocolate, and it's really kind of nice. It's not a super long finish, but it's not really super short either. The front flavors is still like some hay and earth, kind of a dry earth, not like that damp, wet earth that I tend to actually prefer, but it's not horrible. The front flavors are still a little bit unrefined. It's not harsh. It's still a really smooth cigar. Just not really, you know, they're just a bit unrefined flavors. Why?
Yeah, good cigar so far. I haven't had any real construction issues. I've got a couple of, I mean, it's an uneven burn, but I haven't had to maybe touch it. I didn't get that same pop that Justin got, but overall, yeah, the flavors haven't really come into anything. They haven't really melded into solid flavors. Each puff is sort of different. I'd say overall the finish is sort of like a really bitter chocolate, maybe even a really bitter coffee, like a Turkish coffee or something. But even then, it doesn't have the pepper and kind of that zing that the Turkish coffee has. Good cigar so far, but I'm hoping that the flavors just kind of pack more of a punch as we get further in.
Let's get into the second third and see how it goes. Welcome back. We're about halfway on this Gurkha Assassin. No more construction issues. Like I said, that one will burn right through without a problem. Burns not razor sharp and not needing a touch up. It's about I'm going to say a medium in body and about a medium in strength as well. I know that's usually what I always say on cigars, but that's kind of what it is to me, so take it with a grain of salt. Flavors for me, still getting like a hay and earth and more of like a dry earth, but you know, they're not well defined. They're still a bit, as I say, unrefined. The finish is kind of morphed into, for me, a very nice, kind of like a semi-sweet coffee. That finish isn't super long, but isn't super short either. I really wish it was a lot longer, because that is kind of the best part of the cigar right now, is the finish. Overall, not a bad stick. It's not ringing my bell, but not a bad stick. Why?
Yeah, I agree. The flavors still haven't really come into their own, I guess, and they haven't changed much since the last update. Still getting that general hay earth for a fairly short finish of coffee. And again, it's kind of a bizarre coffee, because if there was more pepper to the cigar, then I'd say it would be like that Turkish coffee, but there isn't. So it's kind of a drying coffee, if that makes sense. Almost like a coffee bean. But regardless, it's a good cigar. I've had excellent construction. We've said that we are willing to take a risk with Gurkha, and this is a risk that I'm fine with taking.
It's not bad at all. Let's get in the final third, see if we get any changes. Welcome back. We're at the final third of the Gurkha Assassin. Construction was alright. Like I said, I had that one crack that didn't actually become much of a problem. Burn's not razor sharp, but never really needing a touch up. Draw was fine. Flavors through that whole cigar, the whole profile, it was very unrefined, those first few flavors. And when I say that, I don't mean harsh. It just means you really can't pick them out without, you know, it's hard to individualize the flavor. I say kind of like a hay and earth, but really they're molded together, and you know, there's nothing really to define each of the flavors. The finish, on the other hand, was relatively pleasant in the second half for me. You know, it was like a nice semi-sweet coffee, but I wish it was longer. And so, not a horrible cigar, but not one of my favorite Gurkhas. Definitely not the worst Gurkha I ever had. But I think the price in brick and mortars are like around $9, maybe a little more for it, depending on your taxes for your state. But it's really not worth that kind of cash. Online, I think I got these on the bid side. I think I paid like $3 or $4. I think it was $3 a stick. You know, if you can find them for that, I'd say give them a whirl, because you know, this is just our opinions. Take them with a grain of salt. You might really like them. They're not horrible. Yeah, give them a whirl if you can find them relatively cheap. If I was going to rate it, because it's a pretty decent cigar, I would give it a 6.5, maybe a 7, but let's just stick with a 6.5 for right now. I didn't really. The finish could be longer. The flavors, you know, the first flavors as you pull in the draw is very unrefined. Nothing really defining each other in that. So, yeah, 6.5. I stand pretty well with it. It's always about a medium in body, medium in strength. What?
Yeah, with a cigar called the Assassin, you know, I'm thinking, I just thought it was going to pack more of a punch than it did. But it was a good cigar. I mean, like we've said several times before, we're willing to take a risk on a Gurkha, and this is not a bad risk to take. Overall, though, the flavors, like Justin said, never really melded into their own. They were all sort of mixed together, and there wasn't anything that was real predominant in your face about any of the flavors. I think to me the whole cigar tasted like the first inch or so of that Shaggy Foot, that Gurkha Shaggy Foot that we had a couple of reviews back, and it was that unrefined taste, almost kind of like without the wrapper, and it wasn't bad, but it just didn't have that real sharp, clear taste to it. So, but like I said, a good cigar. This is probably something that I take out like on the golf course, you know, or if you're driving, or if you got something else to do, but you want to smoke a cigar. This would be good for that because it tastes good and it's not, you know, insulting or anything. But yeah, like $9. I don't think I'd pay that much for this cigar. I think, like Justin said, if you find it somewhere for $3 to $5, they're definitely worth a shot. So another hit from Gurkha.
And what did you gonna rate it?
Oh yeah, my rating. Yeah, I do agree with it, 6.5.
Okay. Well, in conclusion, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. And until next time, smoking with the got 'em.